Hey, welcome back to the JMach Podcast, where our mission is to make veterans great again through community involvement. And I'm your host, JMach. Thank you for tuning in. Together, we can conquer our mental health one step at a time. I want to thank our sponsors, TRC, Total Roofing and Construction, and Arizona Organix, Arizona's first legal dispensary. Please like and subscribe, and remember that your mental health matters. You're not alone. And enjoy the episode. All right, JMach fam, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Derek Lamont King. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Good, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for making that long commute. What, like an hour and a half?
Yeah, about an hour and a half. It's like 60 miles west of here. It's just the traffic.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you battling that for us.
Yeah, anytime.
So let's just jump right into this. So what was your childhood like?
I grew up in San Diego, Tijuana area. I was a border town kid.
Okay.
So most of my life I lived in Mexico. Went to school in San Diego. Eventually ended up going to school in Mexico from like the 4th to 8th grade. Came back to the States, took a little proficiency test, and they put me in the grade I was supposed to be, and then finished high school, joined the military.
Okay. So what was that like going back and forth between Mexico and...
It had its moments. It could be a little hectic, especially being, young, having to wake up every day at 3:30, 4 in the morning to get ready, get my brothers and sisters ready for school. Mom and dad would cross the border, drive us across, and then we'd have to chill for a little bit until it was time to go to school. Then I drop my sisters off in school, pick them after school, pick them up, and then go back home. It was kind of like the daily routine for years. But it was fun. A lot of good experiences that I got, that your average person wouldn't get,
Right. I'm not even going to say I had a similar situation, but I lived on the border of two states, and so it was just so convenient to go back and forth, and it was just normal to me, right? But then I meet other people that are in the center of the states, and they've never been to a different state.
Yeah.
And it's like I drove 2 miles when I was in a different state.
Yeah.
So
we were definitely spoiled down there, especially with the weather, and there's just always something to do. You know what I mean? You get a lot of people from all over the world, especially San Diego being a military town.
Right.
You get a lot of people that would also cross into Mexico, Tijuana, and stuff like that to go party back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd be
Is that what you fell in love with the military?
Yeah, a little bit. It's one of the reasons. Yeah, it's the whole party scene.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was beneficial, it instilled something different inside you to be able to go back and forth so easily and have two different lives in a sense?
Oh yeah, it definitely helped me, especially me being a mixed kid. I'm Black and Mexican, so it was always I never really fit in anywhere. So I'd always have to kind of people please or learn people and try to adapt. So even in Mexico, my Spanish is my second language. I still had issues with it, so it was a little difficult, and they could tell, my Spanish was a little off, so, getting picked on, no different, but
Right.
than anywhere else.
So how did you cope with not being able to fit in? Because
I immersed myself in a lot of little hobbies, so I was always repairing dirt bikes. My dad would buy broken dirt bikes and give me $80 and figure it out. So back then there's no YouTube, and so we were literally just trial and error. So I was always able to keep busy. So I had bicycles, I was just that adventurous little kid that was, never needed to worry about me. I was always off on my own.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I kind of want to dig a little deeper in this because I have people in my life that can relate to not being black enough to fit in not being white enough to fit in with the whites. So was that a struggle for a while, or did you not ever allow that to bother you?
It never really bothered me until you start gaining more consciousness of it as you get older. You're just oh, that's what that meant. Or it was definitely hard, especially being Mexicans and the blacks and the Mexicans type deal, and then it was just always a little friction somewhere. So I learned through just trying to be funny, try to see things from other people's angle, how to better communicate with people. So that taught me that in a sense prepared me for the military, where you're going to encounter a bunch of people. Like you said, some people have never left their town.
Right.
So you get to understand their point of view. You know, you get to show them yours, and then you guys kind of like meet in the middle, you know, in the end. But it was definitely a good experience because it taught me young, you know, how much of assholes people can be, and also how caring people can be in the same sense, you know. So you could either walk with everyone's an asshole, or you can just take it as it is. You know what I mean? So I learned through everything I do is just match energy with whatever energy they give you. You know what I mean? So if you're nice to me, I'm going to be nice to you tenfold. But it also goes the opposite way. Like if you're mean to me, like it's going to be tenfold because I'm a very nice person. You know what I mean? Like I've always been respectful. You know, I always put myself in other people's shoes. So when people can't give you the courtesy of at least just being respectful, it is a little different.
Right, and it had to give you thick skin at such a young age.
Yeah, thick skin, especially like all the jokes and stuff like that. You know, I take all that with a grain of salt. I was always like an old soul, so I never really got along with kids my own age because I was always tinkering with things, breaking stuff apart. I wanna know what that orange light in the toaster is. So I grab a spoon, stick it. It's electricity. No, I know. Then you going into voltage. Ooh, how many volts is that? You know, how many volts will kill you? But back then there was no Google or you can just like look it up on the internet.
Right.
So most of my knowledge was hands-on, or in Mexico they had these little things. Once Google and all that really came about, they had cafes, internet cafes. So you would pay like 10 pesos, which is, I don't know, like 2 nickels, to use the computers for an hour. So I would go down there, and that's how I started getting into computers and downloading songs and MP3s, and I would charge people back when the MP3 players first came out, and that's how I made a lot of like my money and stuff like that. In school, I've always hustled. I would sell candies. I'd buy Mexican candies and just start selling them around school.
Okay. Did you feel like in your adult life that you've had to deal with those issues of not being able to fit in at such a young age because people were assholes, right?
Yes. You know what I mean? You just learn to stay away from those people. You know what I mean? I'm the type of person that like I'm very optimistic. So even if I'm in the same room with someone that don't like me or we have problems, I just stay in my corner. I make the party wherever I go. You know what I mean? I enjoy talking to people. You know, especially with living so far out now.
Right.
It makes you appreciate people more when you see them, versus being in the city. You're just shoulder to shoulder.
You just can't get away from
always
them.
mad at traffic. You can't get away. You know what I mean? There's always some sound. But out there where I live, it's just peace. It's quiet. You know, not much bothers me out there. You know,
except for those planes flying over.
Yeah, that's weird, man. And I'm not the type to complain about. You know, I ride Harleys. You know, all this stuff. You know, but yeah, there's a limit to how much noise and constant droning.
Right. What do you think is one healthy way that you cope with, besides bringing the party wherever you go, but coping with people that make you feel like you don't fit in because you're not what they want?
Well, a lot of times, most people, we have more in common than not.
True. Very true.
Every time I go out, and most times I have my dog with me. Everyone loves dogs. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, most people like weed. You know, I love talking about growing. I love gardening. You know, I have, like a jack of all trades. You know, there's a master of none, but still better than a master of one. You know, so that's me. Especially with like growing cannabis and all this, it just taught me like carpentry, electrical, plumbing. So everyone has, some type of experience with that. So I like to be relatable to people. We all have shit going on in our lives. That's what I mean by put yourself in someone else's situation and just kind of attempt to see where they're coming from. Maybe they're just having a bad day.
Right. That's one thing I struggle with is I would say I'm a nice person myself, right? But sometimes I end up matching the energy.
Exactly.
But I no longer want to match the energy because that's me losing control of myself because that's not who I want to be. Yeah. I can come for that kill shot real quick, right? But I don't want to be that person anymore because that takes me to a place I don't want to be.
It does.
And then afterwards, I feel that remorse. Like today I said something to my wife I probably shouldn't have said to her, but I felt like she was poking the bear. And I don't think I was right for what I said. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
And sometimes it's just the emotions of it. You know what I mean? It's sometimes we get lost in our thoughts, and it's just really hard to snap out of it. like, wait, and sometimes, like, even me, I'm guilty of it. Like, if I have ADHD, so if I'm, like, lost in thought or thinking about something, someone disrupts it, it's just, bro, what? You know what I mean? And then people are like, oh, chill. I'm like, and it only makes you mad when you're like, relax. I get it. That's why even with my girl, I'm not like, chill. She has her emotions that she's going through. It's rare, but, it's more likely for me to be more emotional than anything, but you learn how to control it. You know what I mean? Like, you realize it's okay. You know what I mean? As long as you're not being harmed, everyone's being fed, you got everything you're working towards. Sometimes we just got to stop and see how far we've come.
Right. So what was high school like for you? You went to San Diego?
Yeah, I went to Imperial Beach High, IB High, in San Diego.
Checks out for now.
Yeah, it was cool because they called it the ghetto by the sea. I don't know why, but you had a good mixture of people. So in high school, it was cooler because I wasn't the only kid crossing the border. You know what I mean? By then, I had friends, like, people I've met. And not necessarily we went to the same school or anything. It was just like, and every day, hey, what's up? You run into someone and you start talking. You cross the border, you get on a trolley, then you take a bus, and then, you walk the rest. But in those long walks, you run into all these kids. You have these great experience, conversations. You get a little mischief here and there, but, better than just, I guess, playing video games, being at home, I was just always curious.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get into it, but I feel like that commute that you had probably set you up a little bit for the military experience.
It definitely did, especially waking up early, having it, because when you live so far away, and even now I live far away, you got to plan ahead. It teaches you to stay planning ahead, you know what I mean? Like, you got to think, like, like, for example, me, I live, as I said, an hour and a half away if a tire blows out or something, you know what I mean? Like I'm in the middle of nowhere, so you have to be prepared for that. You have to be always conscious of, even if I leave my house, spare time, yeah. I know it's in there, but I just like to do my checks, make sure I have tools and stuff like that. Because you're your own help.
Right.
And that's what those long walks also taught me. Because you do run into bullies, you do run into, like, people being weird, and those long walks, those teach you how to interact with people on the street, more so than not. So when joining the military, you can just be like, oh, that guy's just a little weird. That's just the way he is. Leave him alone.
Right.
Don't poke the bear, as one would say. But once you spend more time around people, then you learn how. You learn the traits. Just like dogs. Like, we forget we're animals too. There's certain dogs are more protective, more aggressive than another. Then that's because they're either guard dogs or it's just they're on flight, or flight, and they're always on fight. Some people are always on fly mode. It's just, you got to learn. Some people are just naturally anxious people.
Right. So what led to joining the military?
Me joining the military was more just trying to get away from all of that. Just be on my own. It's just, there wasn't no real, I knew I wasn't going to do college. Like, I did all right in high school, but I knew I was just never challenged enough. Like, all the stuff they would teach me was just boring. Like, I just felt, okay, I learned this a while ago. Like, you guys didn't even teach me. Like, those long walks taught me about this. If there's 3 guys over there and there's 2 of us here, let's not cross the street. Let's stay on this path. You know what I mean? Like, so it's, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, I did too. So we're equal. When did you realize you were going to join? Did you know early?
So I was about 17 when I made up my mind on joining. And I did some research. I mean, when I was sitting in MEPS, I was just taking everything in, being curious. And I saw that a lot of the Medal of Honor recipients on the walls were corpsmen, Navy corpsmen, you know what I mean? I was like, or just awards, you know what I mean? I noticed that, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I looked more into being a corpsman. It's medical, you get medical training, you get to help people. I'm like, I like people, I like helping people, So I figured that's the job I want to do. And I joined the military just to travel, you know what I mean? That's what I read it, and I digged it, But also before that, I had gotten in some trouble in high school with some kids. We were shoplifting, yada, yada. So there was, in 2007, 2008, I was part of the last, court order batch to, oh, you can do a few months in juvie or you can try the military. I'm like, I like the military, and that's kind of what set me more on that path.
So the truth comes out.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But even before then, that's what I was planning on doing. I was like, I just didn't know which branch yet. You know what I mean? So I saw the Army, and then I would just pay attention to like all the Army people in the town. Like they were there, you know. I didn't like them.
Right.
And I met a few Marines here and there, you know. When I was in high school, you know, all the young Marines would still go to the high school parties and be like, who's this asshole with the dog tags hanging out? Like, you know.
Right.
But then as you get older, you're like, oh, it's a boot. We were all there, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
We were all guilty of like, look at my dog tags, I'm a hero. But, yeah, so I joined the Navy and ended up doing no Navy things. I was just stationed in 29 Palms, the whole time desert, attached to Marines. Almost 9 years I've been on one ship, and that was just for a MEU. So that was pretty cool, you know. Knew more about the Marine Corps than I do the actual Navy, so.
You wore our camis then?
Yeah. So I was green side. I started off blue side, which at first I didn't want because I was like, oh, hoorah, I'll kill, you know what I mean? I want to go with the Marines, I want to be a devil dog and all that stuff. But looking back on it, the hospital actually taught me a lot more than combat or even field exercises. You got to get a lot more hands-on, you know what I mean? Like I went from working pediatrics, emergency room, to labor and delivery, you know what I mean? Just everywhere I've ever worked at, I kind of just excelled. Always getting in a little trouble here, I have a big mouth, but, you know, I always did well. My work always did, I guess it was better than my character. My work ethic was better than my character at the time. So I was just a little more, I guess, rambunctious, you know, the whole authority thing, especially when it's like, you know, it doesn't seem right. You know, right. You have that little gut, why are you making me do this? Like, it just doesn't feel right. So that's like the only issues I had in the military, you know what I mean? But the Navy, it just was the best option for me at the time. I really liked it. The thought of being close to home, I could probably get stationed over here, and as soon as I got out of the military, I went home, and I was spending like a couple years in San Diego, and I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here. So we moved to Arizona, and we've just been renting, looking for little plots of land, traveling this whole state, you know, looking for what we found in Tonopah.
Before we get into that, what made you want to get out of the military? What made you decide you had enough?
I had enough with just all the politics. You know what I mean? It was just, you can clearly see, I mean, we've all seen it. You get your, like, you know, like your 3-year E5 or something crazy like that, and you're just like, whoa, like, I've been doing the same stuff and more. Like, what's going on here? And it's like, oh, it's just the era you in. You know, I didn't like the politics. I didn't like the chain of command. You know what I mean? It's a very few and far between do you meet like a good leadership in the military, and it sounds shitty, but like I could probably name like a handful of people, you know, in the military, thousands of countless people that I met and interacted with, like a handful of people I could be like, oh, they were legit. You know what I mean? They really had like their junior sailors, junior Marines, like, you know, in their thoughts and mind, you know, or hearts and minds or whatever. And it's just, I felt trapped. You know what I mean? I was really hindered by my creativity and like what I can do. You know what I mean? Like that exploring and, you know, breaking stuff and then figuring stuff out, it was just not there anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I just felt like I had outgrown everything that I had been taught there, and I wanted to learn more. But it just, like, I even I continued with nursing, and I was just like, this ain't for me no more. You know what I mean? The military, I was just over blood, guts, gore, just all the traumas of it, you know what I mean? So you just kind of know when to call it quits and kind of separate yourself and just figure out life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What was the transition like for you? And how long ago have you been out?
So I got out in 2016.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, quick. So I've been out for 8 years. But it doesn't feel real. You know what I mean? When you get out, even like the first 5 years, you're like, what's going on here? So we have these expectations of like, man, I did all these great things, you know, thank you for your service, all that stuff. And when you get out, you're going to have it, you know, just maybe a little bit easier than most, you know, with your experiences. But then you get out and you realize that, like, none of those experiences like translate over, you know. Like I worked in labor and delivery, and right there was like do one, see one, teach one type stuff, you know. I got to do a lot of cool stuff in the military that medically that I would never in my life get to do unless I was like a doctor, specific doctor in, you know, out here, like in the civilian world. I've assisted with countless emergency C-sections, things of that, you know, cool stuff. Hands-on, but it just, once I went green side, and it was just, I kind of saw it was repetitive, and it was just this same people. It was kind of like a beating shall continue until morale improves type deal, and I'm like, same. Yeah, I can make a better life for myself outside of it. And I'm grateful for everything the military, you know, did and taught me, more so taught me. I got out as a almost 9-year E9. E3.
Okay.
9-year E3. Highest rank achieved was E5. So I had three NJPs and a court martial. And I got medically retired. And that's like me saying like, oh, you know, even though I was a little mouthy and kind of rambunctious, like my work was that good. Everything I did was undeniable. And that's how I try to do everything in life. Like make everything undeniable to where even if, oh, look at that dummy over there. I'm like, yeah, but that guy can move, or that guy can do his job. You know what I mean? Like, well, why is that guy sitting there? Like, he just accomplished what 10 people would do in like an hour, and they're still doing it. So that's why he's sitting. You know what I mean?
Right.
But in the military, you know, sitting down is not good. You know,
right.
So it's like they know who their workhorses are, and they just burn them. You know what I mean? They run you raggedy, and to them, it's just you're easily replaced. Someone's gonna get this guy out of here. You know what I mean? You know.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your first NJP, I don't need to know why or what it was for, but like, how did you continue forward? How'd you continue to not allow yourself to just become, you know, you were probably labeled a shitbag in some eyes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect.
Yeah.
We all know how it is in the military.
Yeah, I was a motivated shitbag.
Okay.
That's what. Yeah, everyone liked me. I mean, it was like really few and far. Like people that didn't like me were just unmotivated. I didn't get along with people who didn't work, who were unmotivated, who were lazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So even higher ups, they'd be like, oh, because they have, you know, they all have their star child. Let's be honest, they have their little star groups, little star child that they're gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be the next colonel or whatever. Yeah. And they end up being the worst. You know what I mean? DUIs everywhere, knocking everyone's wives up. Like it's just the worst. And that's things like that I pay attention to. I'm like, oh, okay. Like if my hard work isn't really getting me what this dude's doing, you know what I mean? What's the point?
Right.
So now, like, cultivating and growing for myself, starting my own business and all this stuff, doing everything legally, you know what I mean? That's the only real hindrance right now is just trying to stay legal, do all this stuff, play all these games, wait for new laws to come out, just to show people, like, you know, what I can do with all this.
Right. But I'm sorry, I don't know if I got the answer and I just missed
Probably
it,
not.
but like, how did you keep your mindset positive after the NJP?
Well, after that was, the bar, man. I mean, is there any other
I would
way?
not say that was, okay.
I mean, I keep my mom positive. Well, here's the thing. For me, my getaway from everything was the bar. And I wasn't, and I drank. I could drink. I was a functioning alcoholic. I never got a DUI. I never got in trouble. It was just the health. That's when you start But for me to get away was the bar. I'd go there, I'd sing, talk to people, dance. Like, I didn't care. You know, and when I was in the military, I was 100 pounds heavier. You know, everyone thought I was Samoan, so I would just go enjoy my time. But alcohol and was great. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I got my mind off of it. And unfortunately, that's only a few things you can do. You know what I mean? You go to the gym, drink, or get tattoos.
All right, you summed it up.
I mean, but I don't know. I just, a day at a time. That's all. I mean, really, it's a day at a time. Before you know it, a week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 45 days go by, and you're like, oh, you're off from restriction. Like, oh, cool, you know? But also, that taught me not to really fear the NJPs. I'm like, ass, you know? So most of my, the first two were really my fault. That was being the motivated shitbag type deal. First one was fraternization. So, yeah, you know, so shouldn't be messing around with officers. I get it, you know.
Did the officer get in trouble too?
They got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, see, like they should have got the biggest punishment because they're the officer.
Yeah, see, yeah, they got, and I don't know. She was only like a couple years older than me. It was first duty station type. You work night shifts. You know, it was one of those. I was single. But anyways, that one and just dumb things, man. And little things that like, one was for a HIPAA violation. The second one was a HIPAA violation because at that time I was married, and I had scheduled at the time my wife an appointment at the hospital. She was a Marine, and I don't know how like one of my higher up corpsmen, he was a new chief corpsman, but he had been an ET or electrical for like 18 years or something crazy, and then he cross-rated. Like he came over to be, so he's only been a corpsman for a year. And at that time, we were all crusty. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, this guy just went over and beyond it, like tried to get me in trouble and stuff like that. Like I had other chiefs backing me up, you know. But the law was the law, the rules were the rules, whatever. Like I just had access to the hospital because I used to work there, and they never took them away. So that got me in trouble for a HIPAA violation, for a Patient Privacy Act.
Okay.
So then again, another 45 days, whatever. But it didn't really hinder, like, every time I got in trouble, I got demoted. And most times when I got demoted, I had just, in the Navy, when you pick up E4, you have a 6 months, like, grace period or whatever to see if you mess up. That's where they always get me. And then I got bumped down, but I got bumped down from E4 to E2. You know what I mean? It's not like the Marines when you get corporal and then it's like, you get bumped down one. No, the Navy, because since we're in a trial phase, you're really just a glorified E3. So after every time, so that we have to take tests, right? Every time I've taken the test, I passed. Every time I've taken the test or allowed to take the test, I've picked up rank. You know, so even my court martial, I was in E5. Like 2 weeks or something like after my court martial, I got bumped down to E1. I had found out the results that came up, and I had picked up E6. So you see that, like, that was a big jump. But that was just a bunch of crazy stuff that happened in country, and we all got charged with failure to obey a direct order, conspiracy, or some crazy stuff like that. Because I won't get too into that, but there was other chiefs that I had served with in other deployments and hospital, and they all came to back me up. So when they found out that this chief had put me through the court martial, and it was the same guy from the second one too, he was the chief of NAPR, so all the Navy personnel on that base. And my work, everyone's known it on that base. Because they're like, oh, this little shitty E3 fucking stack, like, you know, just wandering around. Like, I just stopped wearing my stack. Because I would get questioned all the time. You know, I'd be like, hey, come here, kid. And I'm like, fuck, man. Right. Because you just see E3, you know, and they're like, what the fuck, you know? So I would just either that or walk with a pocket full of little fucking merits and, you know, which I always washed them, so it was pointless. But anyways, yeah, those chiefs, they had my back, and they pulled me to be their supply, right? Like the Navy personnel, it's pretty much a little bitch there and ordering stuff. But that allowed me to, like, the next day, they promoted me to E2. They gave me a meritorious E2.
Okay.
And then maybe 3 months later, they hit me with a meritorious E3. Because they can do that, you know?
Right.
So by then, I was already was going through starting my med board process to get retired out. So the reason I stayed in so long, because in the Navy, you have to make a E4 in like 4 years or 5 years. If not, you're out, right? So I got a higher tenure waiver. So that's why I was able to, because of my work. And so I was able to stay in. And then even after like the court martial, you have 8 years to like make E5. If not, you can't stay in. Or something around there, like 5, 6, I can't remember the number, it's been a while. But anyways, I was way over that too. And they're like, oh no, I got those same chiefs that helped me, got me an admiral. I've never even met a fucking admiral in my life, you know, like to sign off on another higher tenure waiver. So if it wasn't for my medical disability or me getting retired, I could have still been in the Navy right now as an E3. It didn't matter, you know what I mean? Because I was already past those tenures. So I could have literally been like another like last E5 to like retire if I would have continued with that course. But that wasn't it, you know what I mean? I'm like, if I'm just gonna get up, down, yeah, I'm just like, I'm not gonna advance.
It didn't really help you advance as a person either.
No.
Because they were always like pulling you up and then knocking you right back down and like.
And it just sucked because, as I say, they know who the workhorses are. You know what I mean? So it's, even though most of them like, fuck, this guy will get it done though. You know what I mean? Like, if I locked on to a task, that's that laser focus that I have, like, I would get it done. And I would let no one bother me. I'm just boom, 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 boom. I would organize people. But it's just when it came to, like, my personal life or interacting with, like, other people. Because most of the time I just didn't want to be bothered. I wasn't, like, reclusive or anything. But as I said, I've always been very respectful. But sometimes we know with rank and, you know, a weapon or something, people get a little, a little crazy.
Especially rank.
Yeah. So, but a lot of times what get me in trouble is I would tell people, like, you may outrank me, but I outweigh you. Like, and they didn't like that a lot. And that was, like, kind of my catchphrase, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times I'd run into these dudes at a bar. They'd be drunk, you know, and then while we're stationed, there's, like, 3 bars. So it was always fight and getting in trouble with people, and it's like I never liked that. But it was just nowhere else to go, and I wasn't into video games. You know what I mean? I go shoot in the desert, but you only can do that for so long. Ride dirt bikes, and you know what I mean. And then you have to find the same people that are kind of interested in the stuff you are. But as a young dude, you know, in the military, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go to the bar. Where else are we gonna go? There's nowhere else to like meet anyone.
Right.
But unfortunately, so do other people's wives, daughters, sisters, all go there, and that's what gets you into trouble. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I also quit drinking and all that too, because it just I didn't like all that.
What is something unhealthy that you took away from the military?
Pills, a lot of pills. You know what I mean? So when I was in, the reason why I'm so into like cultivating for myself and teaching people how to cultivate and all this stuff is because by 22 they already had me taking a bunch of fucking pills. They give you a pill. Oh, it's for you have PTSD. We're going to give you a pill for this. But that pill increases your depression, so we're going to give you a depression pill. That pill gives you constipation. So we're going to give you a stool softener, but that stool softener increases anxiety, right? And you're like, what? So, you know, so I'm like, okay, whatever. I start taking my pills like a good boy. Start falling, like immediately, like weeks after. I can't keep up on runs. My head's foggy and cloudy. They have me on Ambien, like sleeping pills and stuff like that. It just turns out I was like diagnosed with ADHD. So they were just trying to throw pills at me to figure it out. And what they taught me is like how easily all that will fucking turn your life, you know, just for the wrong. You know, because I was still drinking. I was still taking all these pills. I was still out partying. Oh, hey, let me get one of those. You inadvertently become a fucking drug dealer, you know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, sure, you know, blah, 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 you know. And it's just not good. The culture of the military, like, as a whole, obviously, it's great. We need it. But the smaller aspect of it, it could be fucking brutal, man. Just like being in a bad family, you know? It's just, it's kind of the luck of the draw.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking this as I'm about to say it, right? So I don't know how true it is, but the military isn't so much about making you physically strong. It's about making you a mental strong, where people like to call it brainwashed, right? Where they'll be able to get you to do the tasks that they need to.
Exactly.
But to be fair, I signed up for that shit, right? So I can't really, I don't believe that they brainwashed me. I already had that in me. I already wanted to do those things. And so I just finally did those things. But like boot camp's not about, it breaks you down. It really does. And that's the purpose of it, right? But I'm starting to believe that it's not so much to break you and make you physical, right? They do want you to be in better shape and top shape, right? But it's all about the mind and what the mind can do, or what they can do with your mind.
Exactly. And they're well aware of that, but the problem is like I can't even control my own damn mind. You know what I mean? So how's someone else going to do it? And that's the issue I had, especially when you can tell it's like, oh, you know, go take that trash out. And I'm like, why? And like, oh, they just saw you and they want you busy. You know what I mean? And that's the stuff I cannot.
Stupid games.
It's like when they see you doing something and they're like, hey, you're taking out that trash? Yeah, okay, good. When you're done, take out the rest of the trash. I'm like, bitch, I'm fucking doing that. And that's what I couldn't deal with. That's like, I guess my mental handicap. And it's fuck games. And we all know the military is all about fuck games.
Yeah.
They try to get into your personal life. They try to shake you. Especially if they don't want you there for whatever reason. You know, may it be, most of the time it's personal. That's the shitty part. It's not work related. It's personal when it comes to all these. I think most drama in the military is personal stuff. This guy's trying to fuck that. corporal, this girl, you hang out with them, and blah blah. It's just I never wanted any of that.
It's almost like high school games again, like those little cliques and those little groups.
But we got a little bit of money now.
A little bit of money, but a lot of power too.
Yeah.
Especially once that rank starts picking up, and there's a lot of, I would say, first sergeants too. You can tell it the most with them that they were the ones that were bullied when they were a junior NCO or a junior Marine or whatever it was, and now they get power, so they want to take it back out, but they fucking hated that in the first place. So why are you doing it? It's a cycle of insanity.
It also takes a certain amount of strength to get out of the military, because think about it.
You can move that mic around, by the way. If you're trying to sit forward, if you're trying to do one thing or another, you can feel free to move it around.
Okay. It's like I forgot what I was going with that. Yeah. No, you're good, man. It's just.
It's like cliques in high school, first sergeant.
It's cliques, high school. They're all trying to get that retirement, right? They're all trying to go out pretty with all the ribbons and, I accomplished this, I did that, I blah blah blah, and it's just. But when you really look at the accomplishment, what the fuck did you do? You just gave fucking everyone hell. You know what I mean? You made people do things like, for me, my medical readiness, right? When I was with the Marines was like, I want to have the highest medical readiness. That way, when I do get in trouble, and it wasn't like I was planning to get in trouble, but I just know myself, they can't really say shit, So, like, when I was with 2-7, 30R, like, we had the highest, like, medical readiness, which was a big deal for us, because that was our job, right? It's like, have every player ready for the game. And then sometimes to get people ready for those games, me being a corpsman, I'd have to track people fucking down. I'd have to go give them shots. In the higher ups, man, it's like herding cats into water. You would try to get them to come here, and that's how I would make enemies. Does that make sense? Just trying to do my job, or just trying to be like, hey, if we get it done today, we won't have to do it. Blah blah blah. Just because I had foresight. One thing in the military is they try to teach you foresight. We plan for this. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. But when the top's not doing it, it's piss poor performance. And then, shit rolls downhill. So all they do is try to pin it on the lower ranking guy. He did it, he did that, and it's
never the actual person's fault.
And and then they're not the hard workers. They may be hard working, whatever paperwork or whatever stuff they're doing, but in the moment when it comes to actually doing stuff, giving people shots, going through the records, they're not doing any of that. It's the lower guys. Right. And I don't know why they like to give those people. It's like if a doctor was just giving everyone shit all the fucking time. And I'm sure they're there. I met them too, but they don't last. Even in those scenarios, they don't last. People start complaining about workers, and no one wants to be around a doctor like that.
Right. You were also saying that it's hard to get out of the military. That's where you were.
Oh yeah, it is. It is hard because you're kind of leaving that safety nest. You know what I mean? So now it's like, I have the military supporting you. They're feeding you, they're clothing you, they're giving you money, right? That's why we made so many bad financial decisions when we were younger, because you were like,
you can't get fired.
You can't get fired,
right?
And that's the problem. It's like, and also a lot of people, we know a lot of people slipped through boot camp that shouldn't have made it through boot camp. Sure. They're just in there, and you're like, what? Like, why are you here? Like, you're just in people's way. As I say, you're just stealing our oxygen, like. But the problem is like leadership couldn't separate those people. You know what I mean? We all know shitbags, right? But we all know shitbags, like real ones that ugh. But they would just keep them there. They're like, they expect all of us to manage our peers, right? But if we're doing a job, that's not our job to manage our peers. You know what I mean? Like now, if you're in a supervisor position, that's your job. That's what the whole thing entails. That's why you don't do as much hands-on. You're overseeing everything. You're listening to people's fucking problems and all this stuff and trying to find a resolution. But if the person, the first sergeant was picked on in high school and ends up in that position because they're not strong enough to either leave the military because they got a whole big-ass family or whatever. I'm not dogging them for staying in. We need them to stay in. But sometimes they got to realize that, if you're doing this for the long haul, you want this to keep going, you got to train the next generation better.
Yeah, you got to be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
So I realized, everything I wanted out of the military for is everything I fucking need in my life.
Yeah.
Like that structure, that routine. I need that.
And it's cool. But as, me growing up the way I did, I already had that structure. I had that routine. So it kind of became monotonous after a while. Especially once you go up through the ranks and you learn, oh, I was right. All this is just to keep everyone busy and out of trouble. You know what I mean? Like field days and all. Yeah, cleanliness is cool, but there's no reason should take you 8-10 hours to do a field day and harass everyone and have everyone on edge. You know what I mean? They have their methods. I'm sure they use it because it works. You know?
Yeah.
It's not. The military's not there to fucking coddle anyone's hearts and minds.
Man, I would hate to see what the barracks would look like if they didn't do field day.
Right?
Because some Marines during field day, I still did. Sorry, he was short. ADD right there for me too, bro. But yeah, dude, some rooms were just terrible, and like I hated going into the rooms that just stink because all they do is order Domino's, drink pop, and play video games all day and all night. Never leave the room, never change their sheets. But they'll spray enough perfume, cologne, anything to get that odor, but it just masks.
And some people have to be harassed. You know what I mean? Don't get it wrong. Some people have to be harassed.
Yeah.
But sometimes all those things, they use it as an avenue. Does that make sense? Like to come in and kind of peek in. Because most of my field days, like I was always like kind of OCD with being clean. I would go over and beyond. Just as I said, like I don't want no one fucking saying, just come in, look, do what you gotta do, get the fuck out. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to make friends with you. I don't want to listen. They come in, they see a DVD. Oh, you watch anime? Or, something dumb. And that's when it becomes personal. You're like, oh, okay, because we don't get to go to their houses and stuff like that, But, it was just, I couldn't, I wasn't a big fan of that. But also, I used to have to get to the barracks early to watch grown men shower as a corpsman, because Marines, not all Marines, obviously, but there's just a few that were really stinky. They wouldn't. I got ordered by my CO to go every morning in a checklist, make sure that guy scrubs his ass. And at the time, most of these guys are like fucking 8 years older than me. You know what I mean? They're not. And I'm like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? I get it. It's my job, it's hygiene and all that. But it was just like, that teaches you about the world. And like, all these people are in the military. They can't wipe their ass. They don't brush their teeth. Like, they always have it's just, that's, you know what I mean?
It's the leprechaun, bro. St. Patrick's Day just happened. Sorry.
But it's kind of gross, you know what I mean? Like, and being a corpsman, you're just a babysitter, really. Take them to their appointments, make sure this is done. Hey, do you do this? Hey, what are you eating? Oh, we've got to put you on a diet. It was just it's project managing. That's all it is.
Right.
For medical.
What has helped you get through transitioning out of the military?
Definitely the urge to buy my own place so I could build my own grow the way I want to build it. Because with renting and cultivating, it's kind of tough because you're always growing in a tent. You know what I mean? You don't get the max yields and stuff. It's just always moving stuff around. You can never perfect your craft. So that's what helped me. When I got out of the military, I was just focused, like on, I need to get a house. I need to do this.
So when you were getting out, were you already... let's just say it this way. After you were out, did you start growing immediately?
I was growing while I was in. I never stopped. I actually updated some of the Navy facilities, their grow ops too. So it's always been a part of my, my growing experience. I got to fail with other people's money. Does that make sense? That taught me more than any other grow op. You know what I mean? I got to learn about LEDs. I got to learn all this stuff and be able to buy it to upgrade, because they've been growing since the 1900s. You know what I mean? Like the whole Pineapple Express shit. But it's just they had to be brought into. It's not just the Navy; it's a joint force. They had to be brought into like modern times. You know what I mean? So I got to experiment with that a little bit.
Wait, so you're saying the military has grow houses?
Not directly, no. They have facilities where they do testing and things of that nature, like studies. But yeah, they have grow houses.
So did you grow before the military? When did your journey with cannabis begin?
So my journey with cannabis began in the military, really. I've always knew people that grew. I grew in Mexico, but it wasn't like the science behind it. You know what I mean? It was like chicken feathers, eggshells, and coffee grinds type stuff. It was like the more know the land. You know what I mean? Military, it kind of played out because when we were overseas, we were like trade our scraps and coffee grinds to the local growers there in Afghanistan, and that kind of helped build that hearts and minds that we were trying to do. But in our area, it was kind of like they appreciate it more. You know what I mean? It's like they have nothing to grow with out there. Like, they've been growing these plants for thousands of years, and it's just the genetics on them. That's why we all like Afghans, because they're dummy-proof, because you can't fuck them up. Because they literally evolved to grow with just bare minimum shit. But so that kind of got me into like, oh, you know about growing and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then when we had come back, I always put in for IA billets, individual augmentees. So I've always been like the guy that replaces everyone, which was cool because I never wanted to be in one place at one time. So that's why I have so many little fucking journeys everywhere, side quests. And that kind of came about when they were like, oh, who's our potheads in here? And, you know, everyone's like, no, come on, who knows about growing weed? I know, oh, Doc knows who's talking to, you know what I mean? They kind of put you, and that kind of set me up for like, okay, we're going to take you to here, blah, 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 they're doing. And it wasn't, it wasn't a direct, I don't know if I can say it, but it was like military. It was kind of like third party, but they're involved. You know what I mean? So I got to go in, take out all the HPS lights and stuff like that, and just bring in monitors and things of that nature.
When did you realize cannabis had a medicinal value to it?
Cannabis had a medicinal value. I've always known it. I've seen it in people. But for myself is when I got out. I'm like, okay, I was over the pills. Like, I couldn't take it with the pills no more. I'm like, shit was hurting, dude. I'm like, organs I didn't even know you could feel. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's going on? And I would go to the VA. I'd go to all this stuff. They prescribed me pills. And it was just all over the place, right? So the doses were too high. I have a low heart rate. So they were like, my heart was literally turning off at one point. It was just, and I was like passing out. And then I was just like, I came to, and like people were trying to hold my big ass up. You know what I mean? Like I was on my knees, and I got to the VA to go be like, hey, something wrong with the medication. And that really scared me, and I was like, I don't want to fuck with this no more. So I just I'm gonna grow. I bought some weed at the dispensary. I smoked it. Didn't like it at first. It made me puke. But I ended up staying with it. You know what I mean? It's like alcohol. I saw it as alcohol. You don't take a fucking liter your first time drinking. You know, you condition your liver like a grown adult. You torture it a little bit. You know, make it tough. But then I found out like I would smoke different strains and they affected me differently. So I just been trying to find what works for me. Like alcohol, you know, some people like tequila, some people like whiskey. Probably went off topic with that, but where are we going with it?
Medicinal benefits of cannabis.
So, I started smoking it. I started feeling the effects of it. Like, okay, it took maybe like a week before I like woke up and was like, oh, I'm gonna do shit today. And I just wasn't hindered. I wasn't sluggish. I didn't feel like my soul was like an inch behind my body, if that makes sense. I felt like a third.
Like you're just living in your body.
Yeah, like I'm watching my body almost like from behind like a third part. What do you call it?
Third person.
Third person shooter game, like, and it just felt weird. So eventually, like, I stopped drinking. Slowly, stopped taking all the pills. Got into the cannabis, and I fell in love with it. I felt the effects of it. And then I started growing myself again. Because I've always been building not facilities, but anything from a tent to a multi-million-dollar facility, I'll do it. You know what I mean? I'm game. I love running numbers, stats, looking up HVAC stuff. You know what I mean? Because for every light you have to have, you know, a way to cool that room. Because every electrical component generates heat, you know. So just learning HVAC. You know, I went to UTI over here because I wanted to repair old HVAC units and stuff like that, but I couldn't buy the R-gas or whatever to fill it, right? Because you have to be a technician. So I went to UTI. I used my GI Bill. It turns out it was just a cert that I needed to buy it. So as soon as I got the cert, I just left.
Okay.
And then that's how I've been using my GI Bill to get around and learn things that I need to learn and then dip. You know what I mean?
So what is your routine for cannabis for your medicinal value? Like what works for you?
For me, it has to be something that's more happy. It has to be happy, euphoric. You know what I mean? It obviously has to be something that grows strong. You know what I mean? So because I forget to water. I'm human. I forget to do things. So I like dummy-proof plants, like the Afghans. You know, so a lot of times the modern strains aren't very strong because they've been manipulated so many times. And also the potency is not there. You know, a lot of stuff. The potency's not there. Smells, tastes. Those reign king right now. But that's because your average user is not a heavy user. So any little amount of THC is going to affect them greatly. You know what I mean? But when people like me, that I'm a heavy user, you know, you have to start finding ways to like use it more effectively. So like I start making RSOs, I start making tinctures, I start making jams, things that I use. You know, like at night I like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I make these really strong RSO jams, eat it, watch Family Guy, pass out. The only time I want to wake up is take my numb arm to the bedroom and, you know, and pass out. But that comes with like trial and error, experimenting. I've been doing this, you know, for a while now. You know, even in the military, I never stopped growing. Like really, I always continued little by little, because I always had friends outside of the military. I had friends with greenhouses in California. You know what I mean? But the actual like science and stuff and lights and all that, I jumped more into it with the military because I took that little IA little side mission to do that. And that's where I really was like, oh, this is what I want to do. Like, I really enjoy this. And especially with being in San Diego and seeing how the market changed, you know what I mean? Like with the cannabis and it being legalized. Now we kind of know what little path we can squirm through, you know what I mean, as like a small batch cultivator. But even nowadays, like people are starting to realize that small batch cultivators just put more love, just like anything, like a mom and pop shop, you know what I mean? Of course, we need the big establishments and stuff like that, like Walmart. Think about, you know, like craft cannabis is like craft beer, you know what I mean? If you want that shitty tasting IPA, which I love, like Arrogant Bastard and stuff, back then you had to go out of your way to a special bar and go pay like $30, $20 a fucking bottle. You know what I mean? But people really enjoy it. It has its following. And sometimes Bud Light just doesn't cut it for most people. You know what I mean? Some people don't want to drink 15 fucking beers to feel anything. Sometimes people just want to sit down, relax, have one strong beer and just sip on it, you know? And that's kind of what I compare like my cannabis to. So it's tailored for me foremost, like first and foremost. Because if I smoke it and it doesn't, I don't feel no pain relief, right? If I don't feel my mind just kind of like mellow out for the intended purpose, I get rid of it. You know what I mean? Or I just turn them into really fucking strong edibles, and I'm going to get my use out of it, you know? But flower itself has become a little more difficult, and even with smoking like dabs, diamonds, and all this, the new extracts and stuff, those are all just byproducts, right? We're all just smoking byproducts, you know? And they work, you know? They work good. But a lot of times you're not getting the full spectrum of it. So it's like you can have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Or you could just have the jelly. Jelly's great on its own. Peanut butter's great on its own, right? But goddamn, you put those in between two pieces of bread, we're off to the races. And you kind of lose that, if the entourage effect, right? We're learning nowadays it's not just about the THC percentage, it's about the quality of the weed, the entourage effect. Just like certain mixtures like whiskey, right? I've heard people say, oh, whiskey makes me frisky and all that stuff, you know? And then I know guys for a fact that they drink tequila, they're going to fight everything in the bar. You know what I mean? Everything. Inanimate objects and all. And so I like to think of it as that. Like, you just got to find the cannabis that works for you. But the problem is, if you're using it as medicine, is consistency, right? Because we all know Percocets taste like shit, but they work. All those pills, they work, you know what I mean? But they work too well. That's the problem. You know, you get hooked on them. So a lot of times when veterans are trying to use cannabis as like an alternative, they're not pointed in the right direction. A lot of times they go to places and they're just trying to sell. A salesman, think of a car salesman trying to sell you a car. You know what I mean? You may be like, oh, well, this one's more economical. Oh, well, this one's going to get you more, blah, blah, blah. You know, whatever their speech is. And they're not necessarily, they're not all bad, you know. I got a job to do. Like, I still go to Walmart. I still need things from Walmart. As much as I would love to support small businesses and stuff like that, it's really tough because there's not a lot where I live at. You know what I mean? So the closest thing to me is like Walmart and when you do go to smaller businesses, you're going to have to pay a little more because they don't have everything set up to do all that stuff. Like in large amounts, you know what I mean? But the problem with if you're using it as medicine is like, say you go to the dispensary, you find something, say Blue Dream, right? You smoke and you're like, oh, wow. Like, you get that effect of like your first time ever smoking, that shit we're chasing, right? And you're like, you just melt into your couch, your back stops hurting, like all this stuff. And then you're like, fuck yeah, that's what I want. Is it gonna, let's say you go a week later, it's still gonna be there. A month later, a year later, you know what I mean? That's the issue I'm running into, and I've noticed that most veterans run into. So that's why you always, like, most people are like, oh, what's your favorite strain? You know, they just make up a name. They can't explain anything to you about it. They just know, oh, it did a good job. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, we remember the negative more than we do the positives. But if you ever find something that you enjoy greatly, smoking, and it does its effect, I recommend trying to find that strain. Try to grow it yourself. Try to see what you can do with it, and if it's consistent. Because once you figure out, let's say you go to Stater Bros, right? And you and you you buy some tomatoes. You fucking eat the tomatoes, and you're like, man, these tomatoes taste like shit. You know what I mean? Don't get them from Stater Bros. You go to Walmart, you get some tomatoes, a little better. You know what I mean? That's shopping. That's consumer. That's all we're doing. You're just trying to find what works for you. You know what I mean? And this whole game is very subjective. You know what I mean? You can go and buy $200 seeds and $1,000 plants and all that. It's the grower. It's the grower who makes it right. And then nowadays, with the industry is becoming more modernized, it's they have HR. You know what I mean? They have all this stuff, politics, all these new implementations, when all this used to be kind of a scumbag job. Most people couldn't get normal jobs, work in this industry, and let's be honest, I'd probably be there too if I went for the military. We all have a little something off with us. You know what I mean? There's certain things that, and most cultivators are like that. Most cultivators just want to be left alone, grow their plant, you know what I mean? But the problem is once you get too big, you have other hands on your passion, and they don't share the same passion. It's just a paycheck,
Right. So, were you able to get off of your medicine from the VA?
Oh, yeah. So I stopped taking all that medication and stuff. It kind of got better once they realized it was ADHD. So they were able to give me medications for ADHD. And this time around, it worked better because I wasn't drinking. So I gave it a chance. I tried taking Adderall and all that stuff for a couple years. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It's kind of it's just like throwing gasoline on a fucking burning fire. It just burns. It burned big and strong for a little bit.
Until it wore off.
Till it fucking wores off, man.
I had a hard time waking up without taking Adderall. I felt like I was just in this fog and phase, and all I wanted to do was go back to
And
bed.
that's what I mean by being an inch behind your body. That fog and phase. You're you know what I mean? It just feels like you're fucking split second behind your movements or whatever you're thinking. But I couldn't, the Adderall, I just stopped taking it and just started focusing more on my grow and focusing on what works for me. Because I bought seeds. I love free weed too. I like smoking other people's stuff, but most of the time I found what works for me is home growers. Even if it's a dude growing one plant in his closet and you smoke a little nug, you're like, oh wow, that's fucking good. Why? Because that guy was proud of his one little plant. He put a lot of love in it, But I've seen it. I've worked in and out of the industry, San Diego to Phoenix. I've all over the place, man. And it's just a lot of the practices I'm not cool with. And I know it's not just me, be like, no, there's certain things that's just wrong. You know what I mean? But we all gotta eat. We all gotta pay bills. We all gotta, and that's why I would never they suck. You know what I mean? Because there's great shit out there. And dispensary stuff, but you're gonna pay the price. That's the bottom line. You're gonna fucking pay the price.
If somebody was listening to this and they wanted to try cannabis, how would you recommend they started, or what would you recommend for them?
I would recommend trying to kind of play with a small. It's tough. I would say a small vape pen versus even a joint. But be careful with the vape pens because it can get out of whack. But get out of hand real quick. But with the vape pen, you can take a little puff, you put it down, and try it out. And you're sometimes the intense effect is because of the entourage effect, right? So full spectrum, the full plant, and that's when you get all But vape pens they're pretty mild. They might just make you quiet. But the problem with joints is sometimes you feel obligated to smoke the whole thing. I've seen it. You spark it and you don't want to put it out. Or if you put it out, it's going to smoke weird. So you just fuck it, I'm going to smoke down this whole thing.
And then you lose the medicinal value, and now you're just fucking out.
You know what I mean? And you can get to a point to where you're like, oh, I don't even know if I'm high. And then you step out of your car and go, fuck. You know what I mean? It's a little tricky like that. And then edibles even more so. You know what I mean? So edibles, the goal is not to scare anyone away. And you can very easily scare people away from all of this. Especially
it's all about control. And for me, the same problem I had with alcohol was control, right? I didn't wake up craving it. But once I popped, I was like Pringles. Once I pop, I don't stop until I wake up with regret, remorse. Fuck, who do I owe and apologize to now? How much did I spend last night?
That?
Yeah.
For me, it's with the shit I do, goofy stuff, and say. I'm like, fuck, the regret the next morning.
Yep.
Did I really kick that dude in the nuts?
And it's it just wasn't worth it to me anymore. So I quit. But I definitely replaced it with cannabis. But I also have weaned myself off of my mental health medication with my VA psychiatrist, like, understanding. I don't know if I can use the word approval, but like he approved it.
They're not. Yeah, they kind of do, like, because like even me when I go to the VA, right? Most of the time I get there and they're always surprised by how much cannabis. Oh, you smoke a lot. Like when the doctor's like, oh, you smoke a lot, huh? I'm like, I just use a lot of edibles. I use the edible thing. But most of the time I get there, I'm fucking ripped. You know what I mean? But I'm a functioning pothead. You know what I mean? I've never been slumped over. I envy people that take a hit and are like, ugh. I'm like, fuck, man, I wish. But that's just, most people with ADHD have, a higher tolerance for things. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't affect us the same way, or most people the same way. So it's tough, and especially if the VA already had you on a bunch of fucking pills too. Like, who knows how you're gonna react with, But you gotta be committed to. You gotta want it. It's like surfing. You're gonna get your ass kicked a bunch of times when you first start learning. You're gonna have that fear of drowning and all this shit. But once you learn how to ride that wave, you're just like, oh wow, this is what I was afraid of. It's kind of like when you quit drinking, right? The first fucking 30 days are rough. Like, you're just, but then it comes a day where you just, and you notice it. You're like, oh, it's a nice day out. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, I don't need it. I don't crave it. I don't, like, my mind's not as foggy.
When you could quit drinking and you went out with your friends or you seen people, did they ever make you feel like you were the problem, or like, what's wrong with you for not drinking?
No, but they would definitely. Even today, I love going to bars. I figured out me going to the bars wasn't so much drinking. It was socializing with people. It was meeting people that were like on the same plane as me, essentially. Happy or whatever. Just there for a good time, get away from shit. But once I quit drinking, yeah, there was a lot of like, oh, you're not drinking tonight? No, I'm not drinking. It's the peer pressure. That's the hardest part of quitting anything. It's the peer, especially if you surround yourself with people that do it. Me, I was in motorcycle clubs. I was always riding around. We're always, drinking. And I'm like, is this what the rest of life is going to be? Like, I'm over this already. Because the military burnt me out on drinking and all that. So it was like, damn, what was the question again?
Yeah, I don't even know.
That's a good one.
That was the best question yet. Oh, yeah, dude. I was asking, like, if people made you feel guilty or, like, you had a problem for not drinking.
No, but I can see it. You know what I mean? I can see it. Like, it's not cool driving to work drunk. You know what I mean? Or, like, I never blacked out, but I'd be the last one down and the first one up. That's what I mean by functioning alcoholic. Like, even when I was in the military, I tell people, if you could drink with me from Sunday to Sunday, I will reimburse you at the end of the week if you make it for every drink you spent, or every dime you spend on a drink. No one could even do it. You know what I mean? Most people would make it to like Wednesday. And I mean by like not getting in trouble, not falling out on runs, like just doing everything, right? Because when you go on those long hikes and runs in the morning, you're like, what the fuck smells like Jack Daniels? You know what I mean? That was me. That was me sweating it all out as I'm running past people. As long as I was able to do my job and not get in trouble, I was fine with it. But that's also a problem. You know what I mean? No DUIs, everything's copacetic. So you start pushing it. And then, you don't want to end up getting in trouble or hurting someone. And that's kind of, as you get older, that's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. It's one of the factors. You start seeing everyone else around you do it. Everyone get a DUI. You start seeing, a staff sergeant walking on base. And you're like, what's going on? Shit like that. Like, a smart man learns from their mistakes, but a wise man learns from others' mistakes. Right. And that's how I saw the military. Like, I'm just watching. I like people watching. Just watch. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't do that, or maybe do that. And, it's just looking for, I guess, that good example. And it's really hard to come by in the military. And especially when you find a good leader or a good example or someone to mirror yourself off, they're gone. You know what I mean? They don't stay in those places because they themselves are like, I can't be here. And they leave. And that's what they taught me. That's why any chance I had to get away from my command, my unit, or whatever, I kind of do it. And it wasn't because I hated them or anything. It was just, I got bored. I wanted to go over here. They're like, oh, we're doing a post in Jordan. Who wants to do medical for a while? You know what I mean? Like, I'll go check it out. Then you go over there, you sit there for like a month, 2 months, like just bored out of your goddamn mind, like nothing going on over here. And you come back, It's just all the little experiences, like Australia, Hong Kong, just traveling. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, no, that was good. So what has helped you the most being out and like separating and becoming like readjusting to being a civilian again?
So, I mean, what's helped me is definitely quit drinking. Because I could not imagine being a civilian and keep doing what I was doing in the military out here. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we did get lucky being military, and people would just let you slide. Cops will let you slide. You know what I mean? Like, get the fuck out of here. Thank you, sir. You run away. I think what's helped me the most is finding my girl. You know, we've been together 8 years. She's kind of kept me straight. Not in the sense of like sexuality, but she's kind of, you know, she's helped me. You know, she's very intelligent. She's smart. She's my best friend. Like, I can have really good conversations with her. Like, she's literally my best friend. Like, when people invite me out to go drink, whatever, I'm like, like if I can't bring my girl, I ain't going. Point blank. Like, if I can, because at the end, like, that's who I want to be with. Like, talk to, hang out with. You know what I mean? Like, everything we've been doing, you know, we go shoot every day, we go ride our quads every day, we train our Belgian Malinois, we have rabbits, we have chickens, we run a homestead, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to create a life to where I don't have to leave I don't have to take a vacation I don't have to leave my house. And I love traveling, I love going out and stuff like that, but I'm just I get it, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, oh, okay, oh, everywhere you go in the world, it's like, oh, this reminds me of home, oh, this reminds me of this, or this, just, the grass is greener wherever you fucking water it, you know?
Yeah, so tell me about this Fun King homestead.
So a Fun King homestead is something me and my girl started planning when we were living in San Diego. I was working cybersecurity. I was doing flight data logging for HSM 41 in Coronado. And then from there, I got promoted to doing like security clearance and cybersecurity type stuff, like very basic stuff for the Admiral of the Westpac fleet in Coronado. So it was a great job and all that, but it was just, everything was too expensive out there. I didn't have a lot of time to do anything. Like, and then most of the time, you know, you just at work daydreaming about what you're going to do when you get off. And then you get off with a bunch of traffic, you can't go nowhere, everything's expensive. You know, I was using my GI Bill. I was working a really good job, you know, with the security clearance and all that. Harley, nice cars, you know, house. But I had no money for fucking gas, you know what I mean? Like, it was good, all that, if I can use it. And then, so I kind of gave all that up when we moved out here. I'm like, fuck it, this can't be life, you know? Just stuff, like, all the stuff, the values, like, it's just gonna go to waste, you know? I'm gonna crash it, I'm gonna, you know, do this. Nah. So we moved out here because my girl got a really good job offer out here for a company. She's a project manager. And once I saw how much it was paying, I'm like, we're leaving. I've always been, I make money wherever I go. I'm comfortable. I'll go work a job. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not above it, you know? I'm motivated. I'm always, like, trying to sell something. Like, oh, I could do this, or I can do that. But, yeah, we moved out here, and then I started working at Amazon. I was doing HR. I was just doing people's timestamps and vacation stuff, and it was a cool job. But they didn't allow weed at the time. So I was a temp, so when they went for the full hire, and I had to disclose to them, like, I smoke weed, all that. And when it ended up getting me, it wasn't the cannabis that they flagged me for, it was the Adderall that the military prescribed me and I had a prescription for. And I guess the combination of both of them were like, no. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So after that, I just started jumping around from grow op to grow op. I started working at a place as a wholesale manager. Then another one I kind of came in ass backwards to start from the top, working my way proudly down. Because every job I ever had in the cannabis industry was teaching me something. It taught me the system, you know. I've never learned anything about growing out here or anyone, you know. But what I have learned is how these businesses stay afloat, how they do their workings, and why where the real money comes from and things of that nature. So I just decided, I learned from that. I was a head grower in one place. A lot of drama, you know what I mean? There's a lot of money riding on this stuff, a lot of butting heads. And as I said, it's coming from times of old where it was just like dudes who couldn't get, or people who couldn't get normal jobs and had to stay underground in these type of grows. But now that it's become more professional and qualities mattering, most people like that, HR takes them out. You know what I mean? Those kind of, you know, different era type people or can't get with the program. HR takes care of them now. So now all these really good growers of before don't want to give their knowledge away. They're kind of burned. They leave. They don't want to do anything. So everywhere I've ever gone, you kind of have to start fresh. I would write SOPs, standard operating procedures. That's what I do most of the time when I get there, and make sure everything is up to code. Because I like doing that stuff. I like cultivating more, though. That was my jam. So I've always worked here. They taught me how to pack. So when I'd see, when you smoke a joint and it burns weird, I worked at one place packing pre-rolls, and I would see, I would see how they burn or the complaints and things like that, and I pay attention to that. So now when I make my pre-rolls, it's a certain grain, it's a certain filter. I mean, like when I sift it to make it so it burns perfectly. You know what I mean? Like little things like that. Like that's what really gets me going to make all the shit we complain about. When you buy really expensive pre-rolls and then you smoke it and like only half of it burns weird and you have to talk, Then you smoke the other one, it kind of does the same thing, It's just attention to detail. So one good thing from the military was the attention to detail that they instilled, Like even with AEG, it's like shit's really hard to get past you. Even when people think you're like, oh, no, I'm just playing, I just didn't care at the moment, I'm still thinking about it. I still took it in, and I'll, deal with it later, but yeah, it's just, I've made more money, I guess, I don't know what to say, but made more money like teaching other cultivators my own methods than what anyone ever paid me. 'Cause most jobs I ever pay, they pay me between $15-$17 an hour. And it's tough because if you really think about the positions in the grow, right? You got head cultivator, you got all the guys up top, management, product, most of it's promotion. Most of it. You got the guys at the bottom, which are usually like younger guys that come into the cannabis. But it's work. You're dealing with soils, you're dealing with different mediums, you're picking heavy things up and down. The problem I notice most in the industry is that those people aren't being educated right. They're not being taught how to become the next head cultivator. So everyone kind of loses motivation. And then the head cultivator, out of fear of losing his job, doesn't want to teach anyone. So when I would come into these places and I start teaching people, talking to people, I'd be making a lot of friends. And the people that really want to grow, they gravitate towards me and vice versa. I'm like, fuck yeah. Because I would annoy people with how much I like talking about weed. But once you realize that there's no direct path up, because you're a cultivator and then head grower, and then that head grower is probably making $20-$25. If he's someone's cousin, nephew, son, or where he's probably making a little more, if they own the company. I get it. You know what I mean? If I company, I hire all the homies too. But that translates into quality. You know what I mean? Because when most of these places are making their money off of electrical subsidies, water subsidies, because they get, from using all this stuff, that's where a lot of their money's coming from. So that's the stuff that I take it in, I learn about it, and I kind of apply it to my small business, but I'm still small. When it comes to my grow and my product, there's only two of us. Me and my girl. Now, when it comes to cultivating, it's just me in and out of that room. No one else goes in that room. I can maintain everything. I don't have to use pesticides. I have very sensitive lungs when it comes to smoking stuff. Whenever your body coughs, that's it telling you something's wrong. Either it's too hot, you took too big of a fucking hit, or there's a chemical in there that your body's trying to warn you of. It's kind of like when someone farts and your body goes, ugh, hey, get away from that dead body. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it's trying to do. But we forget about this stuff, and we just like, oh, no, it smells good. But I've been teaching people how the industry taught me how to alter the smells and tastes of things. A lot of places I worked at, they never had full testing. They would just tell me, oh, go on Leafly and copy what's on Leafly. I'm like, okay, here's the problem, though. And this is what I mean by foresight. If you do that on Leafly, and this is exactly what I told that owner, if you put this on Leafly, you use Leafly, people are going to catch on. They're going to notice that all your strains, it only takes one dude, they're going to notice that all your strains match, Leafly. Okay, about 3 weeks go by, start getting complaints about it. How come all this says this and that? And nothing's real, you know what I mean? So it's, for me, that's why I'm so jaded when it comes to this stuff. Like, I do it myself, because how am I supposed to trust anyone? Even though they may be doing a great fucking job, now they got a little shade because of everything else. You know what I mean?
Right.
And eventually we all will have that experience when you go to somewhere and it just takes one bad bud tender to be like, fuck that place. You know what I mean? Realistically. And this whole game is subjective. So that's why, like, when I'm proud to make my stuff, because I stand behind it. And I also tell people, look, we're all different. You know what I mean? I have a ridiculously high tolerance. Like, and I know we all fucking say that. We all say that. I smoke an ounce a day. if you do go in there and find the cheapest gram, it's probably going to be around $10, maybe a little less, a pre-roll, right? But at an ounce a day, 30 days, 1 month, with after tax, whatever the fucking taxes, it came out to be like $10,600 a month that I smoke or a product that I use. No way in fucking hell can I afford that. See what I mean? And a lot of it, my tolerance is high because I do make these products. You know what I mean? I do test them. Like, most of these people that run large-scale cannabis, they don't even fucking smoke. They don't smoke. I've seen more cokeheads in the fucking cannabis industry than I've seen, like, weed users. You know? Yeah. And I'm not afraid to say anything. I don't have no natural enemies. I could shoot. I can fight. You know what I mean? But it's that it shouldn't be that. See what I mean? It should just be like, let the product speak for itself. And then the thing is, a lot of these testing sites, right? I've submitted on my own through companies and through my own same samples. You know what I mean? And and I get it. The plant's radically different everywhere. But if you're using you're supposed to have something similar. You know what I mean? Like when you're getting these test results, or you send in different names of the tests, and then you go online and you'll look up that strain, and you'll see that it's closer to that strain than it really was, even the original strain it was. Does that make sense? Like, so you gotta be on it, to kind of stay ahead of the game, I guess.
All right. So I'm gonna start wrapping this up. Do you have any saved rounds? Anything I missed that you would like to say?
No, not I can think of.
When's your next? What is it? Galaxy.
So we call it the Ganja Galaxies. So the next one's going to be in September. I forgot the exact date, but my girl handles a lot of that.
What's going to happen there?
So there, what I do is usually at the end of my harvest, we have vendors come out. Vendors to product showcase whatever they got. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to make it more towards growers, actual growers. You know what I mean? It's not just handing out a bunch of free stuff at an event. You know what I mean? So that way people actually have time to communicate. So it's a camping event at my house on the homestead. So last time we had about 20 vendors come out. We had about a little over 100 guests, and it was our second event. So last round, and it was. Yeah, it was just a good experience, man. And so they get to grow. They get to try all the cannabis that I grow. At least minimum, I could show them what clean cannabis is, like what it tastes like, what it feels like. Because the problem is we have nothing else to compare it to. Everyone says they got clean, organic, whatever cannabis, right?
Right. But
unless you have something else to compare it to that's actually that, and then I document it on my Instagram, so that way people can see daily what goes into this, how this, I haven't seen any other company, any other grower do a day by day for 3 years fucking straight. You know what I mean? Whether I'm in there cleaning or doing something, it's tough. You know what I mean?
And how can people find out about this?
This you could, if you have any questions or anything like that, you can reach me on my Instagram, funking_cultivator.
You want to spell that?
Yeah, FUNKING _ CULTIVATOR. If I spelled that right.
I'll tag you.
I went to school in Mexico, so but it's that or Funking Homestead. It's our homestead page. So there we do Funking Cultivator. Do more of my cannabis stuff, and dog training, and then the Funking Homestead is me and my girl, and we do how we breed chickens, rabbits, the dogs, all the stuff in the homestead, our jams, the things that we make, all our gardens that we grow to make all these products and things like that.
It's awesome. So go ahead, give them a like, follow, and check them out. Thank you again for being on the show, brother. I really appreciate it.
Hell yeah.